10.
Oh, we're starting?
Yeah. So,
all right, let's do this.
Well, we'll roll it out in just a second. Let me make sure. This is the 825th broadcast on this platform. It's about 900 now total, but 825 with Be Live.
That is a lot.
It is, you know. I was
Does
looking
it
at
tell you that somewhere? Does it say like Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Say you were keeping track.
No. It's it pops up, and then there's like 190,000 comments.
That's pretty cool.
Collective shows, yeah. Pretty interesting, the metrics it offers. We got 26 people in the house. We're gonna jump into it. It's been 3 or 4 weeks since we had Jason on. And okay, we got sound. All right, hello everybody. We're gonna jump right into it. You know, welcome back, Jason Estes. Thank you for sharing space with us, honoring us with your presence, and thank you on behalf of humanity for your service. It's getting good now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is definitely getting good. I just did a show earlier today, and I was explaining kind of like what's going on in the world, and it's amazing. It's like beautiful, and to see like the bigger picture of what's going on in the world is even more amazing. I won't go into a lot of detail, but you probably haven't seen it, so I'll just explain it really quick. The airplane that's flying right now that most of us are in is like Pioneers, but there's not very many supplies, and there's like almost no Wayshowers. It's just Pioneers, basically, like the architects, the designers, the template builders, things like that. And we all land on May 18th. So we're going to be landing in this new world on May 18th, but we don't really have a lot of supplies, so we're going to have to get really creative, which is what we do the best as pioneers. And then on August 23rd, when the ship arrives with all the supplies and like the Wayshowers and all the other people, we're going to really begin to build the new world physically. So that's August 23rd, but energetically we begin on the 18th. And then about April 8th, 9th, somewhere around there, we're going to cross over. So if you can imagine, there's this world where we came from, and then there's the midpoint, and then there's May 18th.
Yeah.
About April 8th, 9th, we're going to cross into the reality where we begin to feel the energy of the new world.
Yeah.
Like right now, we're just getting glimpses. We're actually going to be living in that space. So it's going to be really cool.
Yeah, I'm definitely getting glimpses, man.
It's amazing, right?
Yeah, and then having these shows, you know, for 3 to 5 a day, or what? And what happens is every one of them is synchronistic. The content's synchronistic, and over the last 7 to 10 days, I know I'm meeting with these people. Well, probably always was, but I'm meeting with these people prior to the show the next day, and I have recall, and it comes during the show because there's this symmetry. You know, the synergy of order, perfect order, design. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the alignment.
Yeah. And then the land over here has been talking to me like I've always talked to the trees and stuff, but the land, like I went out 2 nights ago. I've told this story twice already, but there was one tree and it just like stepped forward and said, hey, all that stuff you've been thinking about for the last few weeks on your walks with Morgan and all that wasn't just your imagination. And then there was a pasture to the left, and it had the same color of this off-planet green, and it stepped up and said, hey, we're the same consciousness. I'm part of this conversation. Let me fill you in. And I'm just going, whoa, okay, you know.
That sounds amazing.
It is. It's been crazy.
Yeah, it has been crazy. It has been one wild ride after another wild ride after another wild ride, and it's just going to get wilder, which is what's really cool, because we have to break the illusion in our belief structures. We have to do that. Yeah. That's why today I'm talking about the food game and fasting, because fasting has been misunderstood more than anything else when it comes to the food game. People are like, well, I've got to fast. That means I've got to do this. I've got to do that. No, fasting isn't even about that. So are we ready to just jump right in?
Yeah, let's jump into it.
All right, let's just jump right in then. Okay. So first things first, understanding like what is the purpose of fasting? Like why do we fast? And you've heard spiritual teachers fast, you heard Christ fasted, you heard all these people fasted, but no one really understands why. And why it's called fast, F-A-S-T. Well, it speeds us up. That's why when you look at the word break fast or breakfast, you're actually ending that speed up. So for the longest time, people have believed that the first meal of the day is the most important meal of the day because you're like willing to end your fast for it. So it's got to be good, right? Otherwise, why would you end going fast?
Mm-hmm.
And then they like have this huge breakfast and it just crashes them. And then it takes them till like 6 p.m. to recover from that. And then as soon as they finally get out of that food coma, they're like, oh, you know what? I feel like I could do something. Oh, let's eat dinner.
Right.
And it's that whole process of staying perpetually low. So what does fasting do and why is it so important? And first of all, fasting is not what people say it is. You can fast for 5 minutes a day and actually gain a lot. And for new beginners, people who have never fasted before, that's one of the greatest things you can ever do. Just set a timer for 5 minutes, talk to your body before you hit the start and go, hey, body, we're going to fast right now. And I want you to be really communicative. Tell me what's going on. Like if you're hungry, let me know. And you'll feel certain sensations come up during that time that's telling you, hey, you're not in alignment with me here. You're not in alignment with me here. And that's what fasting is. It's bringing your body in alignment with who you are and allowing you guys to speed up together.
Yeah.
So starting out with like a 5-minute fasting a day, super easy. Anyone can do it. And it's just that process. But in order to fast properly, you have to be willing to have that conversation with your body. And you have to be willing to be ready to heal, because fasting is going to speed you up and you're going to see things you didn't see before because it expands you.
Yeah.
So the key is just setting aside a little bit of time. For beginner fasters, what I tell them is just get some food, put it on the table right next to the timer so that your body knows that you're not starving, that you actually have an opportunity to eat and you're choosing not to. Because the first thing that happens is the body goes into a freak out whenever it starts fasting, because it doesn't know why it's being punished. And it doesn't understand that it's not actually being punished. So if you put the food there and you say, okay, body, look, this is right here, right now. I could eat it if I wanted to. I could like reach down, pick up this apple, take a bite of it, right? But I'm choosing not to. Your body's gonna be like, but why? And then you guys are gonna have a dialogue, and slowly but surely you're gonna be able to understand and hear your body. And that's gonna create a room for you and your body to work together in life. And fasting just makes that process so much easier, because if you don't have food in there, you don't have other energetic currents that are trying to communicate to you. Because every time you eat something, what you're doing is you're putting something in your body to teach it something. Well, it teaches it through bringing new codes and frequencies. When that happens, we're then unable to get our source light understanding as easily through to our body, because it creates something in between, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so when we fast, even if only for 5 minutes, we're emptying that connection and allowing energy to run straight through. This helps with the inflammation responses, because inflammation is when energy pushes up against blocks. That's why a lot of people are sore right now, because that body phase and that virtual phase really rocked their bodies. So they're like, wow, this is weird. I'm like, I have inflammation all over my body. And that's why. Because their bodies have been slowed down so long and numbed so long that they don't have a communication anymore other than pain. It's like it goes from 0 to 60. No pain to pain. There's no in between. There's no, oh, if we do this, there's going to be pain, which is what happens when you fast enough. You actually start to get into a state where you're like, my body doesn't want this. If I do this, this is what's going to happen. Instead of pain being immediate, there's a choice between doing something that's painful and not doing something that's painful. And that happens when we come into that state of fasting. You can do it longer, you can do it shorter. It's really up to you. But if you're a beginner faster, which is who I'm talking to, anyone who's been doing it for a while, you already know how. You probably went through the hard way and are now getting to the point where you're just like, you know what, I can actually handle this. This works. But for the new people, the people that are watching this for the first time and going, okay, well, fasting sounds great. I've heard all these things about it. How do I do it? Set a timer for 5 minutes, put an apple or an orange or like a burger. I don't really care. Whatever food you want, just set it there. Set the timer for 5 minutes. Tell your body that you're going to eat as soon as the timer's over, and just give yourself 5 minutes of that hunger that you feel as a sensation to really work through it. It usually works if you're right before a meal. So some people like to eat it every day at 6 p.m. So at 5:55, you put the meal, it's already prepared, everything. You just set it there. And for 5 minutes, you just allow yourself to talk and heal and bring light into your body. And then if you're still hungry, you can eat the food. Most people.
So fasting is less the act of not eating. It's a state.
Correct.
It's a state. So energetically, that's why you can do it for 5 minutes, because energetically, energy is not linear.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, you're basically programming. I'm getting what you're saying. So you're programming. You're saying, I'm hungry. There's the food. I'm choosing not to eat it because I want to commune with you.
Exactly.
I want to align with you.
And then the body goes, wait, so you mean that I actually can talk now? You're not just going to force feed me all these things and I'm actually going to start to get a say?
Yeah.
And then everything changes because your body goes, well, what I'd like to do is this. And you go, okay, well, I'd love to do that too. And then energy comes back and you're like, I feel like I could run a marathon right now. And your body's like, do not run a marathon. You're like, okay, cool, I'm not gonna run a marathon.
Eat the burger, man.
Exactly. It's a process. And it's a beautiful process, but it's this discovery of what our human potential is. And it all starts with fasting. And it's as easy as 5 minutes a day right before you eat.
I'm going to do the 5 minute thing because since March the 1st, I'm like consuming not mass quantities of food, but I'm eating a lot.
Yeah, a lot of people are.
And it's burning right through me,
Yes, because of the body speed up phase, which actually we start the next one tomorrow. So that's always fun.
I'll go to the grocery store tonight. But I had some of that at the tail end of February, first part of March. Morgan left on the 3rd, so it was all around that time. Broccoli, cabbage, no's. Those are no's. My body said no more. Don't do that.
Yeah, because you're learning to not be a vampire. Yeah. And this is going to upset a lot of people, but if you have to eat living things to gain the codes and energy of it, that's vampirism. Like that's the definition of it. So what we can do is we can begin to self-source. And when we begin to self-source, you're going to notice that your body doesn't eat the way that it used to eat because every body is designed differently.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying broccoli and kale and all those things are bad, but why are you eating them? Are you eating them because you need that nutrition, or are you eating it because you've been told that you need that nutrition?
Yeah.
And that's the cool part about fasting is when you begin to fast, and this is the second part of it, when you begin to fast, you actually begin to create your own resources. And it's as easy as starting 5 minutes a day, adding a few minutes every week. It's not that hard. But what you do is you actually create this space where your intelligence of your body, like your human intelligence, comes back online and says, oh, yeah, well, now we're ready. We can actually begin to do what we came here to do. And that's amazing. Your creative potential raises. It's like sleep is the same thing. People think you need 8 hours of sleep. You really only need 23 to 90 minutes a day. But the extra part is for people that don't have enough resources, so they go to sleep to create resources.
Well, I've been sleeping a lot the last week or 10 days. But, and I'm glad you said what you did, because I'm really glad you said what you did because, and I might piss a few people off too by saying this, but there's a lot of ascension programming out there, people.
There's a lot.
There's a lot of stuff that might have been beneficial to us that got us to a point. And I'm not knocking veganism. I'm not knocking anything. But what I'm telling you is energy is energy. And I see what you're saying, because what we're really doing is developing a relationship, an intimate relationship with our mind, body, soul, the body being the last leg of this thing, because it is the magnificent Merkaba, So what we're doing is what I'm getting from you is that what we're doing is we're actually ingesting code.
Yep.
We're listening to our body. My body told me 3 or 4 days ago, I went to the store, I loaded up my grocery basket, and I'm standing there going, I don't want to do this. And I had produce and I had this. And so I drive down the road, I hear some music, I jump out of the car, and my body says, I want some chicken wings. So I'm like,
all right.
I haven't eaten chicken and I don't even know when. And I sat down and polished off an order of chicken wings, and it was a great experience, and I felt fantastic.
Absolutely. Yeah. So there are certain proteins that are only found in meats. No matter how much we try, we're not going to be able to find those proteins outside of those meats. And if our body never learned how to make those proteins because we never taught it, then sometimes it's going to crave those proteins. Yeah. It's natural. Our body is a divine intelligence, but it has to learn codes and frequencies from certain things so that it can recreate them. Yeah. Most people never gave it the chance to. Yeah. So, for instance, people that take a multivitamin every single day without pausing, it's like their auto program is, oh, multivitamin today. Oh, multivitamin today, right? Like that program, they're actually not allowing their bodies to learn how to make those things.
Yeah.
Supplements are great teachers. They're the greatest teachers ever, but they're never, and I really hope this stands to be true always, but they've never been designed to be a permanent fix. We are the permanent fix. We are the solution.
I'm getting
and
this.
Everything else is a teacher. It's something that is assisting us to become the greatest teacher. And in that state, then we are able to create everything.
Yeah.
I actually spent 6 months eating eggs and only eggs to learn the protein of eggs because it was so important to like my evolutionary process. So for every day, and I don't eat eggs anymore because of this, but every single day for 6 months straight, I ate eggs, and it was horrible. But my body knew what it was doing, and it wanted to go through it. And I was like, all right, we're gonna get.
I must be on the same path you are, because I've gone from it being my favorite food to I'm eating it all the time. I know that I'm being told to eat it, and I'm getting to the point now where when I look at them, I'm not really sure I like them anymore. But
yeah, it's about learning.
Another thing that you said too, I guess, has occurred that aligns with what you said is, so this is about 3-4 weeks ago. I was working on a part of my body. I was working with, aligning it or cleaning it or whatever. And then I was told, eat orange things, eat oranges, sweet potatoes, anything orange, eat it. And I did, for a day or two. Yeah.
And that's the most important thing you can do is follow that guidance, because that guidance is going to be better than any diet that anyone else can give you.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you can actually listen, and even if you can't listen, developing discernment is just as valuable. So getting it wrong, just as valuable.
Yeah. Because
you're going to learn what you don't like and what your body doesn't want. And also be prepared for it to change. Like you said, you might have a thing for chicken wings. You're like, well, I'm a vegetarian. I'm not allowed to eat chicken wings. And then all of a sudden your body goes, no, you're not a vegetarian. You're an I am. That's it. There is no line after that. It's just I am.
Yeah, that's right.
And so you go and you eat those chicken wings, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, I feel like I could do anything now, because you got exactly what you needed as fuel to teach you how to build that fuel in the future. And now you're able to take off.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it.
That's amazing. And again, the further we get into this, the more simple this infinite wisdom is.
Absolutely.
So if you think about it, consciousness is projected or based on beliefs.
Yeah,
we're unlimited. So the programs run deep,
very
deep.
deep.
Somebody was talking about that over the last 2-3 days, and a couple of people also had intel, just described a different way in terms of your timelines, just like yours. But so the thing is, if I'm eating raw food, if I'm eating vegetables, because of my belief system is, it's going to make me pious, or it's going to make me pure. I mean, I can see where that's limiting us.
Yeah, it is.
It's limiting us. That's what you're saying.
You're saying that something else has the power to give you something.
Yeah.
Then you are now limited. Every single time that you give in to that, you are now giving your ability. So like piousness, for instance, if raw food makes me pious, then the only way I can be pious is raw food. And I keep reinforcing that until something happens called cognitive dissonance, where I've reached the point of no return and I have to be raw food. And I've seen it so many times with people that I truly admired, that I was like, wow, you are amazing. And then they get caught in the game instead of using it as a stepping stone.
Yeah.
Raw food is great if you're at that level and you're working on those things, but don't let it limit you and say, this is the only way. And don't become one of those people that try to convert other people.
Yeah.
Because everyone is perfect as they are, except for you. until they say otherwise.
Jeannie Agazda says, just to reinforce it so everybody gets it, what is self-sourcing? Didn't really get it, but that's like what you're saying. Like, yeah, I was told to eat carrots and potatoes and oranges. And also, when you were talking about that too, I had a question pop up. It's going to involve the same thing, which is, so we can actually ingest, commune, integrate, merge with whatever we're talking about.
Yeah.
And pick up those codes or activate the codes in us. Would that be a way to explain? Is that sourcing? Self-sourcing?
I wouldn't say that it's activating the codes as much as it's learning them. So what we're learning to be is alchemists. And that means that I can take anything, including air, and change it into anything else.
Yeah.
So I can't change it into anything else if I don't know how to change it into that. In other words, I need to understand how that works. So for instance, the egg example, I needed to understand the synthesis of protein that was in those specific eggs so that I could create a foundational template to build something else.
Yeah.
Because protein is one of the strands that actually runs through almost everything. Like all the zones and all the circuits, there is a level of protein that runs through it. It's insane. Even like the codex that created time has some of the same codes that protein does, because everything is part of everything.
Right.
And if you can learn one thread, you can learn the weave of everything eventually. You just have to find each thread and go up through it. And that's the beauty of the opportunity to take the microcosm and master it through us as a macrocosm, and then bring it back into the world as a microcosm with a macrocosm or wholeness.
Yeah.
And the only way we can do that is if we stop dumbing down our body, because our body is the secondary tool. Like, yes, get your spirit online. That's super important, right? But once you're awake, the next step is waking up your body. And you can't wake up your body if you're putting it to sleep with food.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the things that jumps out at me today is the rule number one seems to be talk to your body, respect
Absolutely.
your body. And that's like outside of the old definition of that. This is actually hey, we're in this together. We're the unique. Nothing else out here matters. Sourcing sounds to me like we're going to get this information together as we align.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So the goal, and this is something that a lot of people don't understand, is like, as a spiritual being, you're an infinite being, right? Therefore, you've already played every game, you've already ascended, you've already done all this stuff. But embodying that is the true purpose of the human condition. Like, the reason we came here was to take that infinite wisdom and be able to share it in the physical plane, which our body is how we translate, right? So the spiritual being has to translate through the physical vessel to commune or to connect.
Yeah.
Well, we're only as good as our antenna. So we, the spiritual being, our job is to teach our body to reach the same level that we are, that infinite level. And while it hasn't ever happened before, it doesn't mean it can't.
That's right.
And maybe we'll be the ones that do it, but we won't know unless we give it a try. Like, you've got to at least see. And it all starts with a 5-minute timer a day with food in front of you right before you eat, just acknowledging that you don't need to eat, and having that timer and having that communication saying, body, I'm going to eat, but let's talk about some things first. Let's take this time to really get to know each other. And then continuing to do that is going to build this bridge between you and your body. And even when you eat, you're going to still be able to hear your body. It's going to be an amazing process, but it doesn't happen overnight. So anyone who's willing to do this, you want to do this and commit to at least 21 days straight of doing it. And you can add extra minutes to that 5 minutes if you want, anytime you want. But I tell you, if you do it for 5 minutes a day, every day for 21 days, by the end of it, you'll have a connection with your body that you didn't have before.
Yeah.
And that connection will serve you in so many ways, because you will know everything you need to know within yourself. And that's called self-sourcing. So if I go and my body knows things and it translates properly, then if I go into an experience, I am learning the depth of that experience at such a caliber that it's almost palpable. Like, I can be like, oh, that person just went through this experience, and I feel like I just went through that experience. Mm-hmm. But instead of getting lost in the translation of it, like most people do, I'm able to stay who I am as an observer witnessing that. because of my relationship to my body, because my body is able to not get triggered by the experience. Instead, it steps back and observes, and it listens to me, the spiritual being, commune with it. And that's like the greatest game ever, because every time that your body doesn't get triggered, it doesn't like go into that contraction, and it goes into expansion. And it expands and makes more room for you, the spiritual being, to come into your body, until eventually the totality of who you are and all of creation can fit inside your body, and you can actually walk the world in that level of experience. And that is the goal for all of us. You ask what the secret of life is? That's it. It's that simple.
I agree, man.
And into the totality of who you are.
You're going from a human being to a divine human being.
Well, a human to a human angel. That's like the whole purpose.
That's the way to put it. Yeah. It's the epitome of embodiment.
Exactly. Yeah. I call it full presence. It's the goal that I have this life, is to reach it. I've experienced it from time to time, and I'm just like, oh, this is amazing. But then within seconds, I'm like, oh, thought, nope, that did not work. Okay, wow, weird. Now the world is readjusting, because it's like life-changing when you get those experiences. And each time you do, you learn a lot about who you are and who you've been. And then that who you've been, that's the number one thing that throws people off, because they're like, oh, I've been this thing. And then it's like, that thing must be more important than this thing. And then you're like over here exploring that thing, instead of being present and letting that thing just go past you. Because it really is just a movie. Everything you've ever lived is a movie that you're witnessing as you're learning. And if you try to go into the movie, you're no longer present with this moment, and this moment's better than that moment, because that moment led to this moment.
Yeah, that thing that I had, and a lot of this has been happening more and more frequently. I know it's not just me. These moments, right? And so when that happened on the land, I was being shown what we would call the past, and I was being shown what we would call the future, but I was present, and they were all present. That's the only way I could explain it. But this stuff's been going on more and more and more. And the other thing that's a little bit challenging, I don't know if you got anything on this, is then you got to go to the store. You got to go interact in the world, and it looks like a movie.
Yeah, it does all the time. Or holographics. That's my favorite, when people look like they're stick figures, and you're just like, okay, just gonna smile and nod, just gonna smile and nod. I can acknowledge that you are a cardboard cutout right now, but I can also acknowledge that it's some version of the holographic universe. You are also a person. So smile, nod, walk away. And it's life. Like, the beauty of our experience and our purpose here is that right there. The ability to go to the store, holding that level of grandness and awareness, and giving that holographic version a opportunity to learn something through your presence. So a lot of people realize, like, they think that, you know, holding this space is impossible out there, but that's the purpose, is to hold that space out there, to have a job, to do those things, because contribute that presence to the game, so the game itself breaks. Because you're seeing matrix reality, and matrix reality needs to break. It needs to, but it can't as long as we are hiding away in our rooms or our houses or things like that. We've got to step out and really hold that space. There's a scene in the Matrix where Neo flies away and people see him, and it just like breaks them out a lot. Like, you can see what's happening, because he like gets out the phone and just flies off. That's what we have to become if we truly want to break the game from inside. We have to be willing to just say, hey, this is me. You know, this is the totality of who I am, and this is the best that I can be right now. And if you don't like it, that's okay, because you know, you can go that way, but I'm gonna be me, and it's okay for me to be me. I had a student that was like saying that she was excited because she's feeling all of these mistakes and these flaws and all this stuff coming up for her, and she's excited about it because she's allowing herself to be it for once. And that's what I'm seeing. A lot of people, like, you know, it's their first time in like a fifth dimension or a higher fourth dimension, and they're just like feeling around, and they're blind and they have no idea what they're doing, but they're willing to do it. And that willingness is what brings the wisdom. Without that willingness, like if you just sit there and you just wait for someone to take your hand, you're not going to get to the fifth dimension. because there's no one that's going to grab your hand and bring you to the fifth dimension. It doesn't work that way. And that's the problem, is so many people are used to relying on other people to do the work, because for the longest time, that was like the best way to make money on this planet. Spiritual like healers, man, they made bank through this process because they could carry a person up to the upper fourth dimension, let them get triggered, wait for them to fall, pick them back up, charge them money, then raise them back up, and then keep doing that over and over and over again, because there was a glass ceiling that said no one's allowed past this point. So they knew that that person was going to fall down again.
Yeah, that's over.
That is over. That ceiling is gone. That is all shattered. We are out of the age of the false prophet. The only people who are going to be able to hold that space now, because vampirism doesn't work anymore. If you try to pull from someone, they're going to feel it like that, and they are going to walk away. We are now in a place where it's time for us to be our best selves, and that could be the most messed up, flawed version that we can imagine, but we're working towards something great, because the willingness is what brings wisdom. Like I can't say that enough. You got to be willing to try. And it's going to be scary. Someone posted this thing, I don't remember who it was, but they were talking about like the monkey bars, and how you have to let go of one to grab the next one. And that's so true. Yeah. It's so true. Like you have to let go of where you are to move forward. You can't just hold on to the bar and just pray that the monkey bars move forward. You know, it doesn't happen that way. So you let go with one hand and you go forward. And that's staying present while moving into the future, staying present while moving into the future. And that's the only way we're ever going to get anywhere. And as a race, we're being asked to do that, not as a people, not as a person, but as a race. Yeah. The human race is being asked to ascend. Yeah. The earth is already ascended. It's going to continue to ascend. I mean, shit's just going to get weird. Like, it's just going to keep getting weirder and weirder and weirder and weirder and weirder until the matrix breaks.
No, it's already getting weird.
It's not weird yet. Like, the stuff you're talking about, that's weird. But like the stuff that's coming, that's weird.
I don't doubt that a bit. But I find when I see creases in the space of a room, and then it wiggles. Yeah. You know, or the thing of driving a car, I feel like I'm in a bubble in a tunnel. Yep. And I'm watching everything go by. And actually, you know, getting out's cool. Getting out has actually been entertaining. The only thing is, it's like you go to a movie, right? And you're watching the movie, but you don't have to like interact with the characters. So that's the difference. That's what's kind of weird, is like you were talking about the stick man, the stick figure.
It's like augmented reality. That's all. Just think about it from that perspective. Like augmented reality, AR, is like you put on goggles and you can see a different world on top of the world that we're in.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what we're going through. Did you ever see Valerian? It's a movie where they talk about like time, and they talk about dimensions and stuff. It's a great movie. If you haven't seen it, definitely watch it. Valerian, yeah. There's a bizarre scene where they like show how dimensions work, and like it's so many codes. It's like one of the best scenes ever made for a movie if you want to understand dimensions. So we're having these lenses over our eyes taken away, and we're all of a sudden we're like, oh, well, we're seeing all these things. Well, those things have always been there. Yeah. Like I see constant little floating things and things like that. And I go outside and I see little sylphs everywhere, little sparky fairies, like everything. Like it's everywhere. That's dimensional sight. Everyone on the planet's getting it. Yeah. And it's happening naturally because the planet is over 5D now. And now humanity has to raise to 5D. There's stuff like Elon Musk giving away all his patents. That's just like proof that we are in the transitional phase. When people like that step up and say, I just want to make the world better, here's everything that I've ever figured out. And it's like billions of dollars worth of information just given out to humanity and saying, improve it, make it better. Together we can change this world.
Open source.
Exactly.
Open source.
Open source so that you can self-source. You're not reliant on others. Yeah. That's the key to everything. When you look at fifth dimensional technology, you're going to be looking at it and going, okay, this improves my own source connection. And it improves my own source connection in a way that doesn't disempower me. It's self-sourced. It's in and through my own source connection. And you're going to know that. When you do a fifth dimensional technology, the difference is just very obvious because it doesn't take away anything from you. It only gives. And that's the beauty of where we're headed, is this space of just overflowing abundance, constantly overflowing abundance in every aspect of the game. It's not going to happen overnight, because if it did, we wouldn't be able to appreciate it.
Well,
I like the little drips that come into reality from time to time. You know what I mean? Like you're like drip and you're like, whoa, this is amazing. But if the whole thing dumped immediately, you'd be like, in a few minutes, you'd be like, well, you know, that's cool. Yeah. But the little drips just make you just like that inner child joy just bubbles up again. And you're like, holy crap, I can't believe this is real.
The little drips is why we came.
Exactly.
It's not to get to the end. We knew what the end was before we ever started.
Exactly. Right? Yeah. But we get to watch it form. Like, how great is that? Without understanding the struggle that we went through, we couldn't appreciate where we're going. The kids that are being born right now, they have no idea about the amazing things that are going to be like their natural way of being.
Yeah.
I take the computer as an example. Most people, they just think it's part of life. But when we were kids, they didn't have computers in the way that they do now. I mean, you could get one, but you had to be like in college, and like they were like whole rooms.
Yeah.
And now it's like this, everyone has one. I mean, there's one in your phone. It's just like, it's a whole different world. That's how it's going to be eventually for our people too. Spirituality will be like, oh, it's just part of everything else. It's natural. Yeah. But for us, we get to witness that come to be. And we'll never forget where we came from in that way. It's beautiful because it gives us a new level of appreciation and really just a new level of love for the world. And that's what really makes great examples.
Really, our tech is going to be like rotary phones.
Exactly. Yes, that's a great example.
They're like, what's that, man? Grandpa, what was that?
Yeah.
It's all laptop. It still works. They're going to be like,
yeah. It's a crazy world we live in, and everything is just becoming more and more amazing as we go through it. So like to summarize, the most important thing that I really wanted to convey today is that fasting doesn't have to be 6 days long to achieve benefit. 5 minutes or more is more than enough. You can eventually go to when your body naturally wants you to fast for 5 days. Like that's cool, but let your body tell you how long to fast for.
Yeah.
Eventually you're going to get that connection, and then your body will be like, you know what? I want to fast for 6 hours. You'll be like, okay, cool. Set a timer for 6 hours. Don't eat for those 6 hours. Honor your body. Every time you do that, your body gains confidence in you as a teacher. And that leads to this whole new level and dynamic. And you're able to do things you couldn't do before. Because your body's like, oh, okay, well, I trust you. And that trust is everything. And eventually then it has faith in you. And then the game is on. Because that's fifth dimensional currency, faith. It's like everything changes.
It's like you said, it's giving.
Yeah.
Like with the Elon Musk, you know, and giving, that whole frequency is giving.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a mutual alignment too.
Yes, it is, and that's the beauty of it. That mutual alignment changes everything.
Yeah.
And when we're in that state and we're truly aligned like that, we can find others that are aligned like that, and we can create something greater than we could do on our own. And that's when true beauty begins to manifest in this world, is when you're able to find someone who can self-source and they don't need you for anything, and you guys come together to play.
Right.
True magic happens at that point. And that's where we're headed. Like, it's very soon, actually. We're already starting to get glimpses of it, or drips, as I like to call them. And it's amazing. Every time one of those drips happens, you're like, oh, this is so amazing. I can do anything. Oh, it's great. But it's a drip. So then it's like a few seconds later, you're like, oh, okay, I can see that that's where we're headed. Okay, that's cool.
I was talking about this on the last show. I kind of experienced some of that with Michael Van Patten, trying to put this, you know, the website. And so I have like 80 shows I've got to upload to YouTube, and I haven't had the technological capability, but that's solved. So I have like 20 of them sitting on YouTube in draft mode. And I just need to go in there and type everything in and then push, right? So I open up the YouTube, and there's all these videos have been uploaded. And I had to sit there and go, because I'm already familiarized, I'm getting familiar with this frequency. And so I look at it, I think, did I do that? Did I do that, and I'm just, like jump a timeline. I actually had to sit there and go through that because stuff like that's been happening.
Yes, it does. It's amazing when it happens too, because you're like, oh, well, I guess I already did that. That's cool. That's more efficient. Now I can go do this.
Yeah,
I wonder how I did that.
yeah.
That would save me a lot of time, because then I'd be like, okay, well, that's the frequency I need to hold. Okay, it's done. Now I can go do this, right? But
yeah,
I haven't figured it out yet either. It happens, but it happens like little drips. Like I said, it's just random at this point. One day I'll figure out why.
And other people, yeah, and so it's happening external with other people too. It's one thing to happen on your own. Like, was that chair there when I came through the room, or was that light on? And it's just me. But now it's starting to happen, like with you and with other people. Like I know I'm talking to them. Like I'm carrying some level of recall. The other thing I love about the simplicity of what you have to say too is, it's not about the how. It's just the what. So the what is in the heart. That 5D currency is just give forward, and in faith. And it's like, you don't have to worry about the how. The how comes to you.
I've been realizing that a lot lately. It's been amazing constantly to have these things, because like building 55 centers. So we finally went over the budget of like how much it would cost to build 55 centers for expansion. And the minimum that we're looking at is 165 million for the 55 centers, right? And then it's $20,000 a month to run them. And we're doing them on love donation. So it's like, okay, wow, there's no way that in any mathematical sense this could ever work. But then you like let go and you're like, but this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to build the first one. I'm going to see what happens. And then the universe gives you an opportunity to do something. And you're like, do the math. You're like, wow, that's $31 million a year. That actually could build 3 centers. Like I could do this. This could work. And then it just keeps building and building and building until eventually you have all the pieces you need. You're like, oh, okay, I'm going to go build my first center now. Yeah. And that's the beauty of like what's possible if you let go. You just have to know that you do your best. When an opportunity shows up, you do your best. And then you move forward from there. Yeah. And then you know that the rest is going to be taken care of. But you got to do your best. I can't stress that enough. If you just sit around and do nothing, you're not going to be doing your best.
It's not how this game works.
No, it's not how the game works. You can't just sit in a chair and be like, well,
yeah. We didn't come here to kick back.
No, we didn't.
We came here to create. I mean,
we came here to create and also to play. Like, to play is like the thing that people are forgetting. They're like, create. And then they like get fried on that whole concept instead of just like, create, now go play with what I created. Create, now go play with what I created. So like each time you're having fun in the process, because there's so many people I've seen that are spiritual that are serious. Like they're seriously spiritual. They're like, no, it has to be exactly like this. And if you don't do it this way, then this won't happen. And it's like, no, that's not true. Because I can do it this way and it has worked for me. Everyone is in this place where they're like, take something and discover it. Yeah. Explore. Like go out, have fun, play. Meet the people that are on your boat, your plane, or whatever vehicle you chose to get to the new world. Just go meet them because they're really cool. Everyone in the world right now is very cool. So go out and play, enjoy, because we're there. We've arrived to a place where we are now in a transit world, and transit worlds are crazy, as you're already discussing. I love worlds. They're usually they only last for like a few hours, and this one's gonna last for months. So it's just gonna get weirder and weirder and weirder and weirder because they can't upkeep the amount of ripples.
I don't rule anything out. I don't rule anything out. Nothing. We had right before she left, we had I think I hadn't talked to you. We went for a walk and we both saw a little gray, a little Zeta. So that was, and we didn't admit it to each other till the next day. I said, hey, she said, when we were walking up here, I said, I saw the same thing. Why didn't you tell me? So then like
one of the things is like, did I really see that? And that's why, exactly.
She thought that, and I said the same thing. And then 2 nights before she leaves, we're in bed, and I look over my shoulder, and there's one standing on the bed. Like, it had like this barcode on his head, and I knew. And I said, what are you doing? And he said, I'm assisting you. to clear something, and we're observing your emotions, the emotional aspect. So I'm like, okay, see you. You know, but no, what's going on, man? I mean, it's just so
the first thing that's important to understand is in this world, everyone is working together. Yeah. So the old counter forces of this world have all put their swords down. Everyone is done fighting, and now everyone is coming together and saying, okay, well, you know, we own 80% of the finances of this world, and we want to move it towards something positive, but we can't do it overnight because the world's not worthy yet. Like, humanity as a race is what's slowing down this process right now. Too many people are holding them in cages, saying, well, you're evil. You know, like, for instance, like, people are like, you're evil. Well, no, every race has assholes. Every race, throughout all of time and space, there are assholes in every race. That's something you're just going to become aware of eventually. There are mean draconians and there are nice draconians. There are mean Syrians and there are nice Syrians. Like, you know, everyone has assholes. Like, it's just part of that process. So learning to say, okay, well, I don't have to make you into that. Just because I've run into this experience before doesn't mean that's what you are. Right. And like, freeing ourselves. And that's what we're in right now. The reason we're in transit space, we're not ready for the new world. We're all in some form of post-traumatic stress from the journey to get to the point where we were ready to leave. And I'm personally going through that a lot. Like, it's just like, okay, well, what do I believe about these people that I shouldn't believe about these people? Like, it doesn't make sense to keep holding this true. And then I've been seeing where, like, they're actually doing good now, and I'm judging it. And I'm like, oh, okay, no, that's not cool. Like, I'm vilifying this person when they're not actually being what I think they are. I'm looking at them from a lens of the past, and I've got to change that. And it's not just like them. It's like friends, it's family. It's like everyone that we ever met along the journey up until the 18th of February, or technically the 21st of February, we've got to let them go. Yeah. And I don't mean like the people, but the way that we see those people, the identity that we think they are, and any beliefs about ourselves too. Because if you made it to this point, you're worthy of the future. Yeah. You just have to become worthy of it within yourself. The only person that's in our way right now is ourselves.
Yep.
That's it. So work on that, and everything else becomes easier. Exactly. Yeah. I don't know how that. I didn't know this could come up like that, but that's.
Yeah, you know, and that's been happening for me this last, because I've really just been alone for the last week or whatever, and what that is people pop in, like either on a news feed or in my mind, and they keep popping in, and it's not even me looking at them at the way they were. It's just this frequency, this communication of uncomfortableness.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm going, okay, why am I uncomfortable with this person? Take it in my heart, take it in my heart, take it in my heart, integrate. Because for about the first 2 days, I was examining it.
Yeah.
What is it that they did? You know, why am I reacting? And then I just got to the point where it's like, you don't need to know why.
Exactly.
All you need to do is just bring them in until you're integrated and balanced.
I actually do something called the Light of God. It's a whole protocol thing. I have a note on it on my Facebook, but anytime that a person comes into my awareness, I do the Light of God protocol over them, let them go. And usually that helps tremendously, because the only thing, like, I'm not a fan of bringing them into myself personally. I believe that our job is to, we are all part of this oneness, right? Like, that's a thing. But from that oneness, we became separate so that we could have different reflections, so that we could become one within ourselves. And I don't think we're going back into the oneness. I think that we're creating the oneness again.
Yeah.
But as individuals holding that same space. Yeah. So when I bring people into me, it actually tends to make it harder for me to process. So that's why I do the Light of God work around it. Is if I can, like, let them go and watch them dissolve, that's all their identities, their labels, their precepts, my belief structures around them, everything going away. All the cords, ties, and attachments that I have to them going away. And then now that it's dissolved, it doesn't recreate itself. But if I bring them in and I do the integration work with them, then I'm bringing in their personality into myself. And then I now have something else within me that isn't me that I have to figure out. So for me, I personally like to just do that. It's kind of the same thing with like a lot of people say, use your heart. Your heart's great. Like I believe in that. But the Godhead, which is right here, is fifth dimension and beyond, right? Because then you have the grand portal, which is way up here, which you can't see because the thing is only so high. But the grand portal, which is like above that, and that's where you begin to step into the beyond or the void state. But the Godhead, this space right here, this is where we go to. And the base of that is in the heart right here, right? So like if you were to see a triangle right now, the angelic wings that come up here are like the triangle come off the triangle, and then the Godhead's right here. So it comes down perfectly. And then the angelic heart right here is actually what is the center part of that. So it's the place where we translate the higher dimensions into something greater. So to me, like, I don't like to bring things into my body because my body is something that's learning how to be whole. My God state, my divinity, already knows how to be whole, so it's able to process things like that.
Yeah.
But what I found when I used to do that, bring them into my body, was that they ended up going up anyway. And so I was just like, why am I causing myself to go slower? Yeah.
I think for me, it's really more of a, like, I guess it's, if I had to, a hug, it's like a hug. I don't know how to explain it. So it's really, but I understand what you're saying. I get what you're saying. And actually, that's, I don't hate to put it this way, but that's where you figure everything out.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
So
this is the story, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, it is. It is the story.
There's too much physical density. You know, there's those things went deep, right? Like you said, we're all having PTSD.
Yeah, we are. We are definitely. It's very interesting. So I actually had PTSD from my time in the Marine Corps. So when I began to see it the same way, I was like, holy crap, this is there's no difference. The images and everything, it's literally just like PTSD. Like the recalls, the shattered memory, like the pieces where we can't like see things properly, it's not congruent anymore because the timeline merges and all that other stuff. That literally created like a global PTSD for every human being that was alive. It's mind-blowing. So
thank you.
Coming into that state and like working with it is you work with it just like you would with normal PTSD. You go into it, you like try to solve it by letting it go. The memory as it comes up, you just keep letting it go until eventually you free yourself from that. It took me 10 years to get out of the whole Marine Corps PTSD. So hopefully I've learned enough now to be able to get through this one in the next 3 months, because
this really makes a lot of sense. Yeah, this really makes a lot of sense because I had it well, 2 years on the streets. I really probably up until maybe a year and a half ago, at least remnants of it. But I've noticed, because what I'll do is I'll twitch. Like I'll twitch. The memory will come in and I'll twitch like Tourette's, you know?
Yeah, and I've noticed your body letting go.
Yeah.
I've
noticed that's what's happening.
That's how I got out of mine.
How'd you do it?
Seizures. My body would literally just like go until I fell to the ground and would shake it all out. Because when you twitch like this, the energy actually breaks up the pictures, and the pictures are stored throughout your whole body.
Man, so I had about 150 to 200 seizures from 15 to 50. And I always knew there was some high level stuff going on, and I even got intel on it too. But now, that you say that I'd just been thinking about that a couple of days ago.
So there's one thing I want to say. Most people don't know the virtual plane exists. I did a whole video thing on it, but they still don't understand it. The reason they don't understand it is the virtual plane is the angelic heart, the point that I was pointing at, to the Godhead. This is the virtual plane where it's stored in our bodies. Every plane is stored in our bodies. So the spiritual plane is actually from this point right here all the way down into the xiphoid process right there where the ribs open up. That's that point. So when you talk about the heart and stuff, you're talking about the spiritual aspect of it, which was the highest game for the fourth dimension. But then when you come into the fifth dimension, you come into the virtual plane being the highest game. And so it changes the way that we process information. It's kind of like the physical plane is actually your foot, like the bottom of your foot to the top of your knee. That's the physical plane in your body. So if you ever want to know where you are, like what you're struggling with, if you touch your knee and your foot at the same time, you can tell if your physical plane is balanced. And if it isn't, then you can work on it. It's really easy. You just massage the legs and do what you need to do to like open that up. Because when you work on that part of that body with consciousness, you actually help to upgrade that plane. So the emotional plane, which is what we're about to step into, is actually from the knee to about the belly button, a little bit above it. It's like right where the xiphoid process is as well. So that whole process from the knee all the way up, like your genitals, like all of that, that's your emotions. And that's important because in a few days, we're going to step into that emotional purge. And that's going to be really fun for a lot of people, since the emotional plane is where most people call the no-no spots. You're not allowed to touch those places, so you don't get really a lot of work there. You know, that's going to be really fun for people. But the virtual plane, being aware that this is the virtual plane and that it's not really been accessible.
Yeah.
People thought that this was the end game right here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's as far as they wanted to go. Because above that is like all of the things that didn't pan out. And that's why we're like healing all these breaks and timelines, is because if people saw the greater game and understood how many times the ascension, quote unquote, failed on this planet, it created a lot of trauma for a lot of people. This was one of the hardest lives that I've lived, and I've only been here for 34 years. And I mean, like, out of all the lives I've ever lived, this is one of the hardest ones.
Yeah.
So that's a big statement. And our soul actually has post-traumatic stress from the ride over the last 20,000 years of incarnations to clear up in the next few months. And that's what this purge is. This purge is aimed to clear that post-traumatic stress. The first layer, which is the one we finished, is the physical. That made room. The next layer that we're in right now, that we're finishing soon, is the virtual, which is us cleaning up the misconceptions because we now have room to do it. Yeah. Then the level after that is the emotional, because it's finally time to face the emotions and come into feeling so that we can actually be stable. And then once we finish that, then we move into the spiritual. And the spiritual is going to be the illusions of spirituality. And that's going to be huge. Spiritual escapism is going to be what we begin to heal. That is like huge. There are so many people that do drugs to enter spiritual states of awareness. And what they're doing is they're empowering that drug over themselves. That's not self-sourcing. It's creating that dynamic that's like more and more and more and more and more until eventually
same thing as you were talking about earlier with food or a vitamin or whatever the case is.
Exactly. Anything can become a crutch.
Yeah.
And a crutch is not a bad thing. But if you live on a crutch and you have a good leg, you're weakening your leg. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
So once we finish that spiritual plane, then we get to move into my favorite, which is the mental. It's like this is when the game really changes, because the mental is where everything that you believe about yourself is stored. And you can only unlock that when your totality is in balance, because your mental is actually not stored in your body. It's stored all around you, in this field around you. So when our body is not needing the support, it's all balanced out, then we are able to update the fields around us, which is how people see us and how we see ourselves. Because when we look at the field, it reflects back to us our beliefs. And that's how we see ourselves. And that's where we're headed. And that's the process we're going through. And we have to go through this purge because of all that PTSD that's locked inside of us. And when we land, we can't have that anymore. Yeah. That's why people are literally jumping out of the plane. I've seen it. Yeah. Literally seen it. People are like, oh, I can't handle this. And they jump out of the plane. And for the longest time, I was like, oh, that's horrible. They're dead. They're like, what? And then I realized that there's a boat that they're like going to, which is slower so that they can handle it. Yeah. And then there's the rescue mission, which is behind that, which is like, so they have until January 9th, basically. If they keep jumping ship, you know, they jump the plane, they jump the ship, they have a while. Yeah. And that makes it more manageable for some people. And there's nothing wrong with any of those. In fact, people on the boat are some amazing people that I know. People on the rescue mission, some amazing people I know. They all just chose to split up so that there'd be enough examples in each category.
Yeah. Yeah.
So notice anyone watching, it doesn't matter what you are. I've been asked that question a lot.
A couple of people I've talked to in the last week talking about somebody they were involved with, either friend or romantic, I don't know, and that they jumped out of the plane.
Yep.
Like, just bouncing along, and all of a sudden, boom. You know,
that turbulence has been no joke on the plane. I'm just going to say that for the record. Anyone on the plane, there is some massive turbulence with the purges. But that's okay.
No wonder I want to vomit all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the good thing about the planes. There are those barf bags. You just have to like go underneath your seat and grab one, and just get it out of you. Just throw it up. It's fine.
I think I used about 6 last week, but there was about a 3 or 4 day period. I just, that's all I wanted to do. Well, that's all I was doing. It was every day was the same thing, and I knew I was purging, but it wasn't, it wasn't painful. It's just
that process, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of like the flight. Like, we know that we're on a plane and we know that we're either going to make it or we're going to crash. That's like there's only 2 options. We're either going to make it or we're not going to make it.
Yeah.
The boat has the same thing. They're either going to make it or they're not going to make it. But eventually one of them is going to make it. So if the plane does crash for whatever reason, well, there's a boat coming. So they're going to pick us up.
Yeah.
And if the boat hits an iceberg, God forbid, there's a rescue mission behind the scenes that's going to come and pick it up. So it's like, we're going to make it. It's just, we're going to make it eventually. I think that the plane's going to land. I'm almost certain the boat's going to make it, and the rescue mission will make it. So it's just going to be a matter of time. But if you're on the plane, kick back, put on a movie, enjoy the flight. Because the turbulence is going to bring stuff up. Throw it up in a barf bag, whatever you need to do, enjoy it. But also go out and like meet the people on the plane, because all the people on the plane are badasses. And if you're on the boat, all the people on the cruise ship are badasses. And there's pool parties constantly. It's like a carnival cruise ship, right? Like, it's huge, huge. Because together, all of these vehicles hold 5 billion people. So, there's a lot of really cool people. And no matter what you're on, if you're in the rescue mission, you're meeting awesome people. So just go out and meet the people in your avenue. Just have fun.
Yeah, I'm on the plane and I'm ordering a pizza.
There are definitely pizzas on this plane. I made sure the plane was stocked with pizzas. I was like, I'm only getting on this plane if best pizzas in the world, they need to be on this plane. So it worked out.
So on the way out now, the 21st is, and I know you don't go that way, but your points, your markers, seem to follow a lot of people's markers. But there's an equinox with a full moon on the 21st. Is that a period? Is there something going on in relation to your markers?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's definitely something going on. We're in the purges, so that's not going to change. I don't try to memorize things. I have them written down, but the 21st would be the emotional purge. So that's going to be really fun.
Yeah. And when you say fun,
if you think about it, because we would need a major push to help people handle that. Because what a lot of people don't get is, like, if you go through the physical purge, but you didn't finish, then when the virtual purge started, it just stacked on top of your physical. And so those people that are in the chairs just going like, no, I'm not going to do anything. Good luck. Because it's going to keep stacking. And you will not be on the plane if you cannot work through stuff. You will fall off the plane. Your chair will somehow just like eject you, and you'll land, and then you'll have the process to do this all over again on the boat. So just deal with it now, because it's so much better than dealing with it later. Don't let it stack up. It's like dirty dishes. If you clean a dirty dish right after you eat, it's like seconds, right? You can even just do it with water. Just turn the water on, and it's just like this, and you're done, right? But if you let it sit, it starts decaying, it gets hard, and then you have to like scrub, and it's so difficult. It's the same thing. When something comes up for you right now, it's like putting water on it and just washing it so fast.
Yeah.
But if you let it stack up, and there's no reason to let it stack up, but if you let it stack up, it's going to be harder, and it's going to be harder. And then eventually it's going to start to stink. It's going to start to decay. It's going to really
No, not on the plane.
Exactly.
The plane smells good.
It might actually throw you off the plane for having
right.
You never know.
Unconditional love. Tough love.
Unconditional, obviously, we're throwing you off the plane because we love you.
Yeah.
But we also don't want our plane to stink.
So this lady was on yesterday. She lives in Greece, and her intel was really pure. Different face, looks different, but same kind of stuff. So she was using the word, talking in regard to the purge, she was using the word, you've got to be pure.
Yeah.
You've got to hit a state of purity. And I thought to myself, that's like a moving, that's like a something that's in motion. So I go back to what you said at the top of the show about the willingness. I was using the term desire on the show with her, but the willingness, no matter if you're on the plane or the boat or wherever, if you have the willingness in the moment to expand and to grow, that's really not going to lead you any way but forward.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. So the willingness is everything, you know, like if you have that, everything else takes care of itself. Just open to the opportunities as they show up. And you will arrive very cleanly and probably one of the most easy, graceful ways possible. It's when you say you were willing and the universe hands you something and you say, nah, I'm not willing anymore, that you're going to have some pretty big problems. And it usually lasts about 3 days because destiny rearranges itself every 3 days. So it's one of those processes where you just go, okay, you know what? I'm willing. Here's the problem. I'm willing to work with it. Okay, cool. And then you're just done. Like I said, you clean the dish really fast and then move on.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Right on, man. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. It was really fun. Thank you very much.
This was it. Yeah. Yeah, this was it. And I'm sorry I created those 2 days, man, but that was a pretty intense and beautiful thing, you know. We just
it's all good.
We had to go
I've got to let you go pretty soon though, because we have the land meeting. We think we found it finally, so I'm gonna get to go explore that.
Yeah.
I hear the car. That's why I know.
Best of luck on that. I know you don't need luck. I mean, best of circumstances and success.
Thank you very much. Yeah, if everything goes well, then we'll get to start on it in like 3 months. I'm gonna start gridding and doing all that stuff, so that's gonna be beautiful.
Right on. I'll see you soon. You take care, brother.
Thank you very much. Have a blessed and beautiful one. Bye, everyone.